Hello. Welcome back to the Collectively Unhinged podcast, where healing is messy and wellness doesn't always come with a detox tea. So let's be real about our topic today. Trying to live a healthy lifestyle in 2025, I feel like is a full-time job. I mean, you have everything from like the green juices to 5 a.m. workouts to zero sugar to no gluten to meditating to journaling to tracking your macros. I mean, like, if you're not doing all of that, then I can imagine that there's like a part of you that feels like you are falling behind. Like, I don't even understand what macros is. I feel like that word just kind of like was created out of nowhere just to make people feel like a certain type of way. I don't know. But it's exhausting, right? Like, I feel like it's exhausting. So what do you think, Melissa? Do you ever feel like no matter what you try that you always fall off? I mean, do you start strong and then lose motivation and then feel guilty and then spiral into like, why can't I stick to anything? Like, where do you fall in that?
Really funny. I unfortunately do know what macros are. I wish I did not. Yeah, I mean, for anybody, right? Even the most like disciplined people doing it for like a sport or for health reasons, it's really, really hard to stay consistent. I think for several reasons, but the main reason really being, well, two main reasons, right? There is like this weird thing where society, obviously not everybody, but a lot of people view healthy eating or like a healthy lifestyle as crazy, right? So you go out with friends to like eat pizza and you decide to have a salad. Sometimes people are like, oh, you're not gonna have a slice of pizza, like, oh, you're not gonna have cake, really? And it's like, well, I could look at you and be like, you're really gonna have cake, and then it's frowned upon, right? And then you're kicked out of the friend group for,
Yeah.
for saying that. So one, society views it as like weird, right? Even like the 5 a.m. workouts that we've talked about, people are like, wow, that's crazy. And to me, I hear that and I'm like,
Yeah.
well, like, why wouldn't you start off your day with something that makes you feel good? That's like your self care. That, I don't know. You're starting off the day like knowing that you're caring for yourself and your body and like putting your health and like quality of life first. Um, but two, it's also seen as like restricting. So I've noticed that like when people start a diet, one, they tend to go 0 to 100. Some people are like, I've never dieted in my life. I will now eat one broccoli today, and it's like, no, you're not gonna succeed doing that. But in seeing it as restricting, you're kind of like, oh, now I can't have this, or like that wording doesn't help. Whenever we restrict, it makes us kind of crazy, and then at night we're like, I'm going to eat all of this. So you have
Yeah.
to be careful with the wording you choose. More like, I'm choosing to focus on my health for now, but this, bread, like I can eat bread whenever I want. I'm just choosing not to today. I might on Saturday, if that's like your cheat meal day or whatever, right? And even calling it a cheat meal, I like very much don't think is helpful. Um, but yeah, I mean, anybody that has worked with eating disorders or anybody that has had disordered eating will tell you this, like macro counting, dieting, they tell you to stay away from all that stuff because that restricting mentality makes you then feel like you're missing out on something, and then you tend to overindulge or overdo it afterwards. So for me, those are like the two main reasons that it's kind of hard to be consistent with a healthier lifestyle and with a workout plan. And I don't know, you hang out with friends and like those show up at their house and there's always like cookies and donuts and you're like, I don't mind if I do, right? So it's not it's hard to be consistent if you have like very specific goals.
I also feel like we fall into this pressure trap of what we are comparing ourselves to around us, whether it is friends, family, social media is a big one, that we are looking at what they're doing or what's potentially working for them. And then we're like, okay, well, we need to be doing the same thing, right? And that's where we fall into these pressures of, like you were saying, like eating one broccoli in comparison, because there is sometimes that tendency to compare ourselves to others or to see what others are doing and then wanting to follow the same steps, but without realizing that what's working for them is not necessarily going to work for you, or that you have a different goal in mind than what they have, or something like that. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I, yeah, I think that there's so many different ways that we could like talk about this or even answer that question, but I I think that a lot of it, I don't know how to phrase this because it's like a this conversation is like very very triggering to so many different people, especially if they have a history of like eating disordered or disordered eating or like putting themselves down for like starting a goal and then not being able to like achieve that goal. There's so many people that are like, I started this like healthy routine and I've started this 10 different times. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to succeed 9 out of the 10. So then the mentality is, well, I'm just not good enough. Like, it's just not for me. Like, this just isn't who I am. And so I think that that's challenging because there's also like the potential to like view yourself negatively and then actually be the only person standing in your way instead of like looking back and being like, okay, well, let's look at all 9 times. Like, what happened during those 9 times that set you up for success? What happened during those 9 times that set you up to not make it towards your goals? Because even failure, like, I don't know, I see a failure shouldn't be seen as a negative thing. It only helps you like succeed and grow and learn more about yourself. So you can use the word failure. You could just say like what kept you from achieving those goals. And honestly, did you take steps towards achieving that goal? Because sometimes we don't even give ourselves the praise and the worth or the value in like the steps that we are taking. I don't know if
For
that
sure.
answers your question, but I feel, I feel like there is I don't know, there's a lot here. Even in being consistent, right? Like people are like, oh, I did this for 5 days, and the 6th day I completely ruined it because I didn't get up to work out, and that's it, it's over. And it's like, no, that's not what consistency means. Like, you can't do it every day 100%. Consistency means like sticking to it most of the time and also listening to yourself and what you need. But I don't know if you agree with that.
No, I do. And I think it goes back to exactly what you were saying before, that sometimes we fall into this cycle, especially when it comes to dieting, exercising, again, just this overall wellness idea of, we have this idea we want to feel healthier, right? But then it goes into either a cycle of restriction, or it goes into the cycle of like going from 0 to 100 and trying to do things that way. And then from that, you get the burnout of it because either you're not used to it or you didn't do it gradually or whatever it is. And then from there, with the burnout, then comes this idea of shame because like you maybe have stopped or whatever, like you're not doing it at the optimal levels. And then with the shame, it's this whole aspect of how you are then putting yourself down, how you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, and then possibly starting that whole cycle over. But I think you had mentioned this once in an Instagram reel that you did, that it wasn't about like just motivation or willpower, but like it was about the discipline of it, right? So it's like the consistency, like you mentioned, is not just about like doing it every single day, but that you're doing it the majority of the time. And I also think that we sometimes don't also take into account how we're feeling on particular days, especially when we're considering our mental health. If we're struggling with trauma, depression, anxiety, like those things play into our daily lives, right? So it's like, how is your nervous system acting up this day? Like, how are we having possibly like a high anxiety moments, or we're having possibly triggers or trauma responses? Like, we have to take those things into account. And I think when we think of wellness in general, that stuff is not taken into account. So like sometimes for me, when I'm seeing clients and they're trying to work on certain goals or trying to form better habits, I'm like, look, you have to think of it in a sense of, what is a good day going to look like for you? Maybe you have high energy, you're not too busy, you're motivated, whatever it is. But then what does also maybe a low energy day look like for you? If you are just maybe particularly busy or you're just not feeling the best, then what are 2 ways that we can work towards your goal on those days when you're high energy and then when you're low energy? Maybe when you're high energy, you're working out for an hour. Maybe when you're low energy, you're only doing like 15 minutes or something. But like trying to take into account where you're at on any particular day. That's how I like to look at it.
Yeah, also just you start like learning things about yourself. So for instance, for me, right, if I, let's say I have like a hard night with the kids, like the kids didn't sleep, I wake up with a headache, I have to make a choice, right? Because you can't always be at 100%. I've realized that if, there's a day like that and I choose to still get up early and work out and prioritize that physical component, then during the day, it's a lot harder for me to stick to healthier eating patterns. Why? Because I'm more exhausted. I'm more prone to have like less willpower. I'm more likely to overeat. And so then it's also sometimes about like making a decision to not have that pressure, where it does alleviate pressure if you are to say, well, I'd rather work out. And so I'm not going to try to be like strict on my eating. Because then if you put pressure like, oh, I still have to be strict on eating, then that tendency to like overdo it will come up because we're just like exhausted and our brains work in that way, right? When you're exhausted and you're putting more on yourself, you're more likely to just cave and be like, you know what, I actually don't care. Like it doesn't matter. And that's like what we're trying to avoid. But a healthy lifestyle looks differently for different people, right? Like I don't think that the majority of the population is out here like tracking macros. I actually think a lot of people a lot of people you talk to about tracking macros, which, if you don't know, it's like counting and weighing out your food, protein, fats, and carbs. You talk to some people about that and they look at you like you're crazy and they're like, well, you have disordered eating. It's like, not necessarily. For most people, the goal is just try to minimize sweets, try to minimize garlic bread, which we all love. Oh, garlic bread. And just eat when you're hungry, right? Which I think is like a good goal because a lot of times, for sure, we eat when we're stressed, we eat when we're worried, we eat when we're anxious. Some people don't eat when they're anxious, right? But it's all different. So I think a good goal for most people is just like eat when you're hungry and make like good choices, right? Like if it's between garlic bread, which is, God, obviously I love garlic bread, and pasta, or like protein, you're like, maybe I'll go have some protein because that's what my body needs right now. Or even candy, right? Chocolate, whatever. I could talk about food forever. I got a whole list of things, but I don't know if you agree with that, Courtney.
No, I mean, again, like you said, healthy lifestyle can look different for everyone. And I think that's also really important that before you are trying to start a diet or a wellness plan or exercising, whatever it is maybe trying to really have an idea of what that looks like for you. What does a wellness plan, what does a healthy lifestyle actually look like for you? And I don't mean in comparison to what you're seeing on social media, what you're seeing around you. Maybe you've done a recent checkup with your doctor and the doctors are telling you that your cholesterol is high or that you should be working on certain things. It's like, so then what does it look like for you going in? What are you trying to accomplish with how you're moving forward? And then you kind of use that as your foundation to then start a plan, because like if you're just basing this off of other things, like a friend telling you, or like again what you're seeing on social media or whatever it is, then there's like a high chance that there's going to be burnout. There's going to possibly be depending on what's going on, disordered eating or binge eating, whatever is going on. There's a high chance of like things not going the way that you want them to if we don't have a solid foundation of what is it that you're actually trying to accomplish. Like what is your why for this habit or this wellness plan that you're trying to do.
Yeah. Yep.
That's kind of
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm very excited, obviously.
no, just saying like that's how I kind of look at
No,
it.
definitely. And, the other thing I wanted to point out is like, in thinking about that, what you're saying, right? Like what you want to accomplish, it's also like being in a solid place with your self esteem and your self worth, because the amount of people and clients too that I've heard like, oh, I'm going to start a diet because I hate myself. And it's like, oh no, that shouldn't be your why. That's not great, right? Because if you start off with like, I hate myself, and I've heard this too, right? It's very much fueled, and this can get tied into like bulimia, which is interesting. I don't have like so much experience with eating disorders, but I started reading a little bit about it and it ties into it. But so these people start a diet and then they start working out, and it's like their motivation is like, well, I hate myself and I don't want to look like this anymore. And so they like literally like angry workout. Like you're just like angry, like thinking about like the calories that you ate, which I always assumed bulimia was more of like, you overeat or just eat foods that you like normally restrict and then you go throw up, but it also includes like exercise. So if you're like over exercising because you feel that you like deserve to be punished or because you feel like you like ate too much, which is what technically like a lot of these people are doing. Like I am overweight and I hate how I look and I hate myself, and so I'm going to punish myself by not eating, and then I'm going to punish myself by working out like an animal. And I'm like, yeah, we got to take a step back. Like you can definitely like start. I don't even want to call it a diet. I don't know that it should be a diet for most people. I think it's just like healthier choices, healthier food choices. Um, but you can do that while still knowing that you like can accept yourself and there are parts of you that you can love, and like you don't have to do it coming from a negative place. And I think you're more likely to be consistent if you're going into it with like compassion and self-love and knowing that like for anybody our bodies fluctuate, right? I don't know anybody that's like I am always at the same weight 24/7 unless like they eat an egg a day. Like life happens, right? Like our bodies retain water, women, we get our period, like you're on medication, that medication makes you gain 5 pounds. You have a chapter of your life where you're just like stressed, you're taking care of your responsibilities, you can't get to the gym as much. Like that's why I think the first step really is like, yeah, loving yourself, but also defining what consistency means for you. Because what I tell people is to look at it sometimes like the whole month, but also the whole year. If 12 months out of the year you worked out 9 months, that sounds pretty consistent to me. Like that sounds like you're taking care of yourself and your health, and it gives you like wiggle room for like life to happen. Like maybe you lost a loved one, maybe someone lost their job and you had to work overtime, maybe I don't know, your kids got sick more. Like consistency within like your life and the 24 hours that you have with all the responsibilities that you have, but also like giving yourself room for like empathy and understanding, right? Like I don't know, it's the same if you treat working out like it's a job and you have like this appointment with yourself every day. Imagine like you couldn't go to work because you're sick and your boss is like, yeah, you should hate yourself. Like you suck. This isn't like you're not being responsible. So why would we talk to ourselves like that if we miss like a workout day or if we don't have like a good eating day, right? A good eating day in quotation marks. Like it's is you would look at somebody else like they're crazy if they talk to you like that. So you shouldn't speak to yourself in that way.
Well, I also feel like there is this tendency that we're going to be harder on ourselves or we're going to hold ourselves more accountable than maybe that we do others, right? So when we're not following our wellness plan, when we're not following a healthy lifestyle, then we're beating ourselves up for it and be like, oh my God, we are the worst. We're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. And then again, we fall into this cycle of what that is going to look like. We're doing this, we get burned out, we feel shame, we stop doing it, and then it's over and over and over again without really checking in with ourselves and figuring out what is it that my body is asking for? What is it that my mind is asking for? And what are we doing to really take care of that instead of just what a TikTok influencer says or something? I mean, that's really what I think that it comes down to is we have these plans in place. Are we really taking the opportunity to break these plans down into smaller, more manageable, more realistic and relatable goals to who we are? And then are we checking in with ourselves when we are doing these things to see, okay, like if this is not going according to plan, do we need to adjust? Is this goal that I'm trying to, this habit or whatever that I'm trying to formulate, is it really sustainable for me? Is it not? Is it like, what is happening here that maybe I'm not fully on track with it? Maybe it's that it doesn't fully align with what your overall plan is. Maybe there's something going on in your life that you need to be able to address first. Maybe it's something else, but it's like having the ability to reflect on that, having the ability to check in with yourself and seeing where your head's at, what is truly sustaining you and what's not, and listening more to yourself than others, I think is really important. And a lot of times that could be why things are not working out for you the way that you are hoping for, instead of focusing so much on the shame aspect, but more on like, okay, let me really look at what's going on here and like see what I need to adjust, what we need to possibly work on doing differently so that this is more sustainable for me.
Yeah, those influencers are my favorite when they're like, we all have the same 24 hours. Like, really, Pop, unless you have 4 kids, we don't all have the same 24 hours. And you're setting people up for not for success with that, right? Like, I don't know, let's say you're somebody that's like, oh, I would really love to work out 6 times a week. If you can work out 6 times a week, that's way more than the average. That's amazing. But let's say you try and you're exhausted, it's actually harming your mental health, it's not like sustainable. It doesn't have to be all or nothing like what you're saying. You can make a realistic goal and say, well, that didn't work. Let me try to work out 3 days a week. And go from there. So that's the difference between like that understanding, that empathy, that love for yourself. Like maybe you're a teacher and you're like, I can work out 6 days a week over the summer, but like when school's on, you just can't. So it's also like adjusting. But to kind of like talk a little bit about ourselves, Courtney, what's worked for you in being consistent as you're training for your first ever marathon?
Well, okay, so I've been consistent and I haven't been consistent, but I've also been self-aware enough to know why that is. So I would say that before, when I was training for my first half marathon, it was the goal was really just for me to be in a healthier place after having 4 children, wanting to lose weight. That was my goal, that was my why. And then it had started off with me doing it on my own, being a little bit consistent with it, but then I was seeing that I was kind of like falling off track a little bit, went on vacation, stopped working out for a little bit, came back, and I was like, okay, I needed something to hold me more accountable. So then it was like having my husband doing it with me and us doing it together helped me a lot in keeping me consistent and motivated with it. Melissa's husband was also always stalking me with like, why aren't you working out, or what are you doing, and like, oh, look how many miles you ran today. So like he was constantly stalking me with with all that too, so like I had to be on top of that as well. It was also helpful again, and in that sense, like we had a shared Garmin app that you can like see what your friends and everybody that's attached to it is doing, so like that's kind of also another way to hold you accountable. In terms of this year, after I ran the half marathon, I was like, okay, I needed to give myself a little bit of break. And then it was so focused on planning like all these back to back birthdays that I had for my kids, getting all that done, that I wasn't able to be as consistent that I wanted to be. So I was like, okay, what is going to help me really be accountable to getting this stuff done? And I'm a very huge proponent that if I'm going to talk to my clients about doing certain things, I also need to be doing that as well. Like, I'm not going to tell you, or like, we're not going to talk about ways that you should be working towards certain things if I'm not going to be willing to do it myself. So then I had to start developing. This is kind of something that I've been working on in the background with Melissa, but I've been kind of creating this whole mindful habit activity book with with the perspective of mental health in mind, and really trying to hold myself accountable to what does my why look like? What does me breaking this down into like smaller goals look like? If I'm falling off track, then it's about helping myself reflect on it on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, on a daily basis of what is going on, so that I'm constantly on top of like where my head is at, what a good high energy day looks like in comparison to like a low energy or like a really busy day, so that I can give myself the grace to maybe like not be perfect about it, but also still to try when I can. And then again, like I just have to find ways to hold myself accountable. Otherwise it won't get done. So whether it's like paying for a training plan, signing up for this freaking marathon that we're doing in January, having my husband doing it with me or friends doing it with me, so that I'm just finding ways to hold myself accountable with it, has been really helpful.
Yeah, I love that my husband was included in that. He was very, very, very annoying.
Totally.
He would text Courtney every day, Courtney and her husband, like, oh, I see you guys aren't running. It's gonna be really tough
Yep.
when the day comes.
I know. I almost died during my half marathon because I wasn't 100% consistent with it. I would say for the majority of it, I was, but I wasn't 100% consistent. And again, I try to give myself the grace with like, look, I have 4 kids. I have a very busy life. I work full time. I run this practice with Melissa. There's a lot going on. I was even considering doing an Instagram reel on like all the different roles that I have in my life. And just as I was writing all of it, I was like, holy crap, how do I have any time to do anything when I'm over here just like writing all this stuff? Like some, mother, wife, co-founder, room parent for the school. There was like so many different things. I can't even think of everything right now. But there were so many different things that I have as a part of my life on a daily or weekly basis, and I'm just like, this is a lot. So I'm like, no wonder I don't always have time to be like completely consistent with it. But I mean, it's not an excuse. It's just like me being aware of where I'm at so that I can then also make adjustments to make it more sustainable for me, because this is a goal, right? Like I'm running a marathon, a full marathon plus a half and all this other stuff in January. I don't want to die at the end of it. So like I have to make sure that I'm doing what I can to be consistent with it. So I just bought a training program the other day for the full marathon training. So my husband and I did agree that we were going to start like June 1st on working with that because it's a 6-month program. So that will bring us right to January, or like right before January. And yeah, I'm kind of excited about it, to be honest with you. I'm kind of excited.
It's really awesome. I love that you guys are excited and that you're literally hitting the ground running with it.
You know, I hate the fact that I'm excited about it. I hate that. But there's just something about running at 5 a.m. that is like so rewarding and like so cleansing, and I freaking hate that.
I know.
I hate
You
that
really
so
don't.
much.
I don't know. I used to be one of those people that would be like, that's insane. Why are you working out at that time? Well, one, now as a parent, that's the only time I can work out. But that's one of the points I wanted
Yep.
to make while you were speaking. There are morning workout people, there are afternoon workout people, there are evening workout people. I think as you like start your journey, you have to, and even with like food or healthier choices, you have to really be honest with yourself. And so in having that insight, I always suggest, like, if this is a goal people have, to really like keep track of one, when it's easier for you to work out. If you're somebody that's like, oh, I'm gonna work out in the morning and you never get up, like you never do it, like, girly, start working out at night. Like, be honest with yourself. If you tell yourself at
Yep.
night and after work there's always an excuse, it's impossible, you have other responsibilities, then adjust, play with it a little bit, find the time that works for you.
Yep.
Even eating, right? Like sometimes there's like hours of the day, specific rooms in the house, like periods where you know it's harder for you to like not stick to your goals, right? So it's having that insight and like knowing what those quote unquote triggers are, to kind of go from there. The other thing I really wanted to talk about is if there is like a health setback or an injury. I mean, Courtney knows I'm currently dealing with an injury, and if there's anything I need in my life is working out to stay sane, and I have not worked out all week because of an injury. So the self-talk in those situations also super important, which goes back to that baseline of being relatively okay, right? Like having empathy, having understanding, like not putting yourself down, not pushing through a health related thing or an injury, not pushing through like feeling so exhausted with life if something's happening that it's gonna like push you like past that health point that you're trying to find into like an unhealthy mental health space. So it's knowing that with consistency, yeah, there's going to be weeks where you just can't work out because of life, right? Like you said, you had all 20 of your kids' birthday parties like come up at the same time. So it's having that understanding and knowing if you have a lot of different roles or a lot of different hats that you wear, that it's impossible to give 100% to, unfortunately, yourself. You should give some percentage of yourself, but to yourself, but it's going to vary depending on what your responsibilities are.
Yeah, creating a balance, I feel like, is a daily struggle. Something that I feel like I'm sure that there's other people that can relate to this as well, but it's something that I'm constantly trying to rework and modify and do what I can to make it as balanced, as adjusted as possible. Does it always work? No, I would say that for the majority it doesn't in comparison to when it does. But hey, I'm still a work in progress. I'm still learning to see what that does look like for myself, and I have gotten better at it. But it is just a matter of giving it one day at a time, giving it step by step so that you are constantly working at it, because we are constantly going to be a work in progress no matter what.
Yeah, so to answer the original question, why are healthy habits so hard to sustain? I think I think then to add to my original point about like why I think it's hard, I think unrealistic goals is also a big one, and expecting perfection from ourselves where it is a lot of what I mentioned, right? Like I'm going to work out 6 times a week and I am going to have one egg a day and I don't know, and a Diet Coke. Like that's not realistic, right? So also just expecting to always be on point. If you quote unquote mess up, which I hate phrasing it that way, I don't think it's a mess up at all. You can just restart. Like you can just start again right that second. A lot of times people are like, oh, pancakes for breakfast with syrup, the day is ruined. Like, no, it's not. You can start right now again. It's okay to have foods that you like. You don't have to restrict. It's about more healthy choices overall and not making yourself feel like you're failing or have to be perfect. Like nobody's perfect, right? You shouldn't have an unhealthy relationship with food to where you view like bread and pancakes as like you have now messed up and it is the end and now it's a horrible day. Like no, you can eat
True.
that stuff. Just make smart choices. The rest of the day have protein. Like if you have a day where you want to go out to a restaurant to celebrate, I don't know, an anniversary, and you're like, oh my god, I would love to have this brownie cookie sundae. Cool. Have protein during the day. Have healthy. I don't know. Have like vegetables and whatever. Like make those choices so that at night there is that balance. There is that consistency. It's not a, oh, I have this dinner where I'm for sure gonna eat a cookie, so I will have 30 brownies during the day because the day is ruined. So that's also a part of it where we have to do a lot of self-talk and recognize what our thinking patterns are and how we really do sabotage ourselves, because there's no reason that there's like,
We
yeah, there's no
do.
reason that there's like people who are like, I have this amazing healthy lifestyle. Like if you don't want to be that strict, you shouldn't be. I think that, that's why everybody has to have goals that work for themselves, which is what you mentioned, Corny. But if you do want, like if you have a goal to like lose weight and be healthier and you want to be that strict for a little bit, there's no reason that that person can and you can't. It just, we don't all have the same 24 hours. Like we have to be mindful with ourselves. Sometimes we're more exhausted than others, but you can still do it as long as you have that really good insight.
So I feel like that's a takeaway in all this, right? That you don't need to subscribe to punishment disguised as wellness. You can build a version of healthy that does include your mental health, that does include your history, your energy levels, and your joy, right? Like what is sustainable, what makes you happy. And you're not behind. Understand that. You are not behind. You are just ready to do things differently. And we're proud of you for even asking the question, like, what does health look like for you and not everybody else? So if you are feeling stuck, if your relationship with food, movement, or your body has been really complicated, then just know this: you are not alone. And healing is not about perfection, it's about permission to do this, permission to be where you're at, right? Permission to rest, to take time off, permission to eat a damn cookie and not spiral, right? Like we want the sundae, we want the brownie, right? We really hope that this episode gave you some validation, maybe gave you some relief. Please follow us at StrongMindMH on all the platforms: TikTok, Instagram, wherever else we're at. I don't even know where we're at, but subscribe if you want to listen to more. Check out our blog and resources for other things, and please give us some feedback or give us some things that you would like to hear from us as well. And we will see you next time for some much needed unhinged therapy talk. Bye.